invited me to Tokyo because at the time I was going to Osaka a bunch. You know, for years I worked in Tokyo with them for a long time. And one night we were just sitting there drinking, and I was like, you know, man, I was like, I'm not going too far with this shit, am I? Like with me, like I said, he was doing these long sessions, like repeatedly, once a week, sometimes twice a week. The guy was a monster. The half up is all me for the most part, and the half down is him. You know, so to me, that was, I mean, without a doubt, my biggest influence, my biggest, you know.
Damien Rodriguez, thank you so much for joining, man.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I've been a big fan of yours ever since you were a fixture back here in New York City. Now, obviously, you got your shop in London. You killed it over here, so you decided, let me go and conquer Europe as well. So now you got your own shop in London. You know, you've been traveling the world recently. I know you were doing a little bit of traveling, got back recently. But before we get to, you know, all this awesome stuff that you're doing and what might be in there in the future, why don't we start from the beginning and you tell us about your background and how you got involved with traditional Japanese tattooing?
Okay, I guess how it started pretty quickly during my apprenticeship. This has got to be 2002, 2003. The tattoo shop I worked at, they had a whole shitload of books. I remember all kinds of different styles and whatever, you know. But I remember the one in particular I found was an old Horishi 3 book. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of it, but it was photographed by, I believe, American female photographer. Just tons of his bodysuits he had accomplished. And it really stuck with me because I remember before seeing that, to me at the time, tattooing, everything was just like flash, stuff you saw on the walls, you know, one shots. I may have seen some movies here and there, like when I was a kid, of like the Yakuza guys, but it didn't really click until that moment when I saw that book. I was like, you know, these full body suits can be done. And that really, really sparked my interest in the beginning. That was the seed right away. You know, I started kind of thinking like, man, maybe I could get something like this going on. Like I kind of push this sort of thing. But at the time in Philadelphia, no one was really doing it. Just one guy. You know, early 2000s, Martin Lacasse is the only real guy I can think of doing any Japanese style in that whole, you know, 100-mile radius maybe. And he was different shops, so it might as well have been different country because back then you didn't really, especially in Philadelphia, I don't know about other cities, but I remember at that time in Philadelphia, you didn't really hang with the shop guys that much or like go. You kind of just stuck to your own little tribe, sort of. And so I knew this guy was doing it, and I was interested, but I couldn't approach him. And so that was pretty much out of the question for me for a few years. I was like, well, that's not going to happen because I didn't know how to learn how to even begin doing it. I tried to experiment on some friends of mine at those early days of apprenticing. I get friends in and be like, let me do this, you know, dragon sleeve on you. And they're like, yeah, hell yeah, free, you know. Horrible, of course, you know. I'm begging these guys to laser this shit today, you know. But then finally, after a couple of years, when I moved to, right before I moved to New York, I feel like, I think it was around that time, I found Philip Blue, and that was, it was a couple of years later. So I found Philip Blue, and then it was obviously he didn't you know do the traditional per se, but I still wasn't really versed in the different nuances. You know, to me, like Orange 30 and Philip Blue was kind of the same shit at the time because I just saw big full body suits and it was like dragons and koi fish. You know, it was like, oh shit. And then after seeing his stuff, that was it. It just really, it sealed it for me. I was like, this is what I got to do. And that's when I made the move to New York because at that time, it seemed like everyone in New York was doing it, whereas Philly had one guy. It seemed like New York Adorned alone had 10 guys doing it. You know what I mean? So that was a big reason why I even moved to New York in the first place, was to get the knowledge, start learning. And yeah, that's pretty much where I went from there. And that's what I did. And it went from there pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. And that's when I learned about you initially, obviously in New York. You built a huge, wonderful portfolio, but then I'm wondering, obviously you must have started with a certain style, then as time progresses, you've evolved. Now you're in London, you got your own shop in London. How did that happen? I know you know, you got some familiar ties with Japan now too. I don't know if that had any influences with your style and what you do, if you can speak a little bit about that.
Everything. Yeah. Everything about going to Japan over those years, really, because when I moved to New York, I started working at a shop in Long Island called Super 88. And that was a guy named Scott Kelly. And he did Japanese style. He used to be partners with this dude, Horitamatsu, this dude. He's in Kyoto now or something anyway. So they were doing Japanese together in Long Island there, Massapequa. I started working there, worked there for 4 years, and I got a lot of the fundamentals from there. Scott really taught me the opening, the basics, the entry level kind of like build a nice foundation sort of.
Yeah.
And then from there, after a couple of years, I eventually got hired at Invisible. And that was obviously, that place really, it really, I was able to just really push from there, learn, level up, and go from there. My initial style, though, I didn't really understand. I kind of just thought like, okay, you draw the thing like this and you put the wind bars behind it and that's it, boom. And I remember we had this guest artist. He was a Horitoshi family guy named Hide Okada, Toshi Hide, that's his tattoo name. He guested with us at Invisible, and me and him hit it off. We're the same age, and at the time, I was like maybe 31, he was 32. We were out partying a lot. He was getting wild. And we clicked a lot, and he invited me to Tokyo, because at the time, I was going to Osaka a bunch. I had been going to Osaka for years through Scott's, my old boss Scott's connections. But at the time, I wasn't learning anything in Osaka. I was just going to work and hang out and have fun and all that stuff. And Hide was like, come to Tokyo, because I'd never been there yet. So I finally took him up on it. He was like, you can come work with me. So I did, and we were working. And he sat me down one night, and he was like, man, like, we were just bullshitting, drinking. And he was like, your style's weird, And I was like, yeah, all right, what's up? He's like, you draw like this, your images is like that, your illustration style. He was, but then your wind bars don't match the way you draw. You should be doing things a little more like us, kind of like his tattoo family, sort of. And he's saying, like the way we do it right now, you look, at the time, I guess I was influenced a lot by like the things dudes are doing in Brazil. Yeah, the bars were rich, like that, and like Kiku style, or like like everything was really like I was doing these real big wide wind bars, and according to Hida, that didn't line up because my drawing style is a little more tweaky or whatever, a little more illustrative. And he's saying like you got to thin up your wind bars, do them a little more the Tokyo look, a little more Horitoshi or Itoku style family, like. And that just it just clicked, and that's when that had to be like 2013 or 12 or something like that. And I just ran with that from there. And that's really what I've been doing since, with, minor tweaks here and there. With sometimes I'll dumb down my drawings. Sometimes I'll make them a little fancier, make my background wilder. My background's not so, but generally that's been the core. I never claimed to be a Horitoshi family guy or anything, but Hide in particular really put me on the path in terms of my general look. Okay. And then through him, I was able to connect with a lot of the other Horitoshi sensei himself, and then pretty much the rest of the family. And through Shinji, of course, too. Shinji was always, a mainstay at Invisible there all the time, and he gave me a lot of tips as well. But in terms of my general look of the style I do and where it came from, how it, progression and all that, and they really started with that. And yeah, I try not to bite those guys too much because, like I said, I'm not an actual family member per se, but
Okay.
obviously the influence is there. I try to put my own spin on it, my own voice where I can, just because, I don't want to plagiarize or nothing. I still want to have my own kind of look, but I still want to show them the respect and the influence is clearly there. So I want to kind of pay a little homage to them as
And
well. That whole family, they really took me under their wing. For years I worked in Tokyo with them for a long time, and uh, just continued to learn from that. I was just with Akira last couple of days ago, and he was
and
already giving me tips. I was working at his studio just 6 days ago in Tokyo. He let me work at his spot. And, so those guys, they've all been so great with me over the years, and their influence and their just their general look, the way their tattoos look is really where I feel like is where I got it from and where I'm running with it, and but that's pretty much that, yeah. And then the other side would be Garver, just the drawing, the art side, working with Garver and Invisible for so many years, really, he's got such a way of teaching. It's just so understandable. Some people, they're amazing tattooers, but some people are natural teachers. I'm one of them. I'm like people at my shop ask me for advice, and I can't articulate a lot, what I want to say or what I want to do, or what I'd like to see from them. But I remember Garber had such a way with words and just make everything layman's terms and understandable and laid out. Working with him for, he worked at Invisible for about maybe 5 years or something like that. And in those 5 years, I just really sponged off him a lot. So definitely a combination of those two are like my main two elements, Hide, Horitoshi family, and then Garver, mishmash, I hope anyway. That's just, with a little bit of my own weird input, here and there. So, yeah, that's generally, I think, it, yeah. Possibly.
Yes, that's awesome. I'm sure as you were speaking, I had my aha moment, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will also have the aha moment, because just looking at your work before knowing about this Toshihide and Horitoshi connection, you would look at the background, for example, and you would think, oh, there's some Horitoshi inspired look in there, and then lo and behold, it's true. It's like a
it's, and I look at some of my earlier stuff at that time. I remember, and a lot of it was straight rip off, and I'm apologized, to Horitoshi. He'll tease me sometimes. I'll be like, I go visit him and be like, oh, your stuff is looking a lot like Horitoshi family style. And I'm like, I was like, nah, I've gotten tattooed by Shinji, and he did my sleeve recently. And one night we were just sitting there drinking, and I was like, man, I'm not going too far with this shit, am I? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he's like, no, it's all good. Like, it's sometimes I get a little subconscious about it, where it's like, it looks sometimes a little too much. I'm like, yo, because I see, I don't explain it. Like, I'm not a family member, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I don't do Tebori. I didn't apprentice under him, so I don't want to like reap the rewards of, a style and like like a whole lineage I didn't properly earn, So like I still try to inject as much of my own voice in there as I can, so that it's not too much of a ripoff. I don't. That's just me. Some people don't give a shit. They do what they want. But me personally, I try to respect enough to be like, look, the influence is there, but I'm not trying to copy and paste either. And that, to me, that's been like the tightrope I've been walking for the last, 14 years or something. It's like how to make it my own, but still show the respect, because I love the look of it, because it all goes back to Korinuma at the end of the day. Horitoshi, him and Horitoku, they really, he did an apprentice under him. From what I hear, he mentored them to an extent, So like, and you can see their look very much is derived from Korinuma, and one of my favorites too. I learned about him from Regina. It's like I didn't even know about this guy until I started working at Invisible. And lo and behold, he's like your favorite tattooer's favorite tattooer kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and since I've learned about him, I'm like, wow, so yeah, that's, to me, it's like, it's such a lineage, but I don't know. I try not to step on toes too much either and be like, this guy, shows up and is like, thanks for all this shit. Like, so yeah, that's cool. You say that you can see the influence. That to me makes me happy. I hope it's there, you know what I mean? But I hope it's also not looking like I'm stealing. That's
yeah. But again, you're speaking, and I'm thinking, wow, this guy's super humble and respectful, right? Because I think it's mostly in your head, the whole, hey, I'm taking too much because, I mean, like you were saying, as you were talking, I was thinking about that thing that you brought up, that, hey, both Horitoshi and Horitoku actually were hugely inspired by Kuronuma, right? So obviously you shouldn't feel negatively about, and being inspired by their style as well. So, but you brought it up yourself, so that was great. Saved me some saliva there. But no, that's awesome. And then at the same time, I mean, you got that unique style to you with the figures, like you were saying, that there's something to them. They're very powerful. They're very, I don't know, sometimes it's kind of funny in the tattoo world saying artistic. Some people take it the wrong way or whatever, but they look great. They look great and they look powerful at the same time. And so I think you can tell, hey, this is a Damien Rodriguez tattoo, right? So
awesome. I hope so. That's what I'm trying to do, I hope it works. You know what I mean? That's cool to hear, though. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. And I mean, we've been talking about composition style, so to speak, and we talked about the Horitoshi, my influence, and then you also mentioned Chris Carver. But I don't know if there's anything else you want to share in terms of, again, your composition style or the color selection, maybe anything, because I always ask this question. I wonder if you have anything that you want to add.
I mean, color, I just run with what the customers want to do. Over the years, I'm trying to dumb down my colors a little. I was getting a little too crazy before. I don't know. I feel like, but people look at old photos and sometimes they like what they see. If they see that I did, a 5-color crazy dragon 10 years ago, sometimes they see that. That's my fault for not taking them off my Instagram or something, They'll see that and be like, man, this dragon you did. And I'll be like, shit, I got to do this again. So if somebody wants it, I'll do it. I'm not going to be like, no, I don't do that anymore. That's whack. You know what I mean? But generally I'm trying to be simpler over the last year or two, color-wise.
Hey.
And composition-wise, I try to fit the whole thing in the sleeve. For example, you see some images where like it'll be just maybe like half of a dragon or like half of a cord bursting out of the water, but the image is bigger. Like in my thing, I try to do is try to squeeze it all in, try to get the whole image in there. And maybe everyone does. I don't know. I remember like Shinji told me like Horitoshi style does full dragon. He kind of like gave me the, I was like, okay, like, cause I think I was doing something one time where it was like just like the dragon and the head coming out of a splash or something on a half sleeve. He was like, no, we do the whole thing. And I was like, oh, all right. So, shit like that, little things you pick up over the years, hanging out with these people you look up to. And that influences me too, is obviously. So yeah, for my own thing, I like to try to squeeze the whole image in composition wise. Like I said, I guess a lot of people do that though. I don't know. And then, yeah, color wise, yeah, no, I just do what the customer runs with, man. What they feel. If they put it on me, if they're like, oh, whatever color you want, then I will try to dumb it down. Just a black dragon with a red belly, cool. Instead of 3 shades of turquoise and 2 shades on the belly, 3 different golds on the spine. It's like, oh geez, I used to do that kind of shit, and it's like, Nah, man. It's like that shit all, 20 years later, all becomes just one color of turquoise anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's smarter to try to at least simplify it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's awesome. Well, and what about subject wise? Is there like a favorite subject that you have to tattoo?
I love doing dragons, man. That to me is it's like infinite, I feel like for a minute there, I thought I had it all figured out. Like this, I remember one night talking to some friends and I was like, you know what, man, there's only like 4 different compositions you can do on a dragon sleeve. I actually said that, like an idiot, thinking like, and I remember they all kind of looked at me like, that was maybe like 2 years ago or something. And just in that 2 years after I thought about me saying that out loud, I think I was drinking too much that night or something stupid, but I remember thinking like, wait a minute, let me see if this really is the case. And no, not at all. There's dozens of different ways to do dragons, not even like their body shape, but just the way they look. You can, even the movement is, because a sleeve, obviously an arm, is only so much you could fit on an arm. Obviously a back, the options are infinite. But for a sleeve, this person wants a dragon, a sleeve, it's like, okay, well the head's going to go here, but even if, like I said, you can change the way the head looks, the claws, the fire. I mean, it goes on, man. It goes on and on. You need different scale style, different spikes on the back. Yeah, it's to me, it's so much fun. It's always challenging. It's always different. Yeah, no, it's fun. That's really cool for me. Dragons are always. If I could just do dragons the rest of my career, to me, that's I'll die happy. I mean, like, you won't feel wasted. I'll be like, I got to do all that shit, that's my favorite for sure.
Awesome. And what about, and the next question I ask it, and it's especially interesting with you because I've noticed that you've had a chance to do like less typically seen subject matter, like characters and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, are there any like subjects or designs that you would like to tattoo, but you haven't had the chance to yet?
Random things will hit me sometimes. And I'll think about it and I'll be like, I never did that. And I had this, this idea at the beginning of this year that I was going to paint everything I wanted to tattoo, mostly like Flash or whatever, but like put it on a half sleeve kind of background painting, and I started off by doing a Nue because I never tattooed a Nue. I remember that hit me one night and I was like, man, I've never done one of these. It's super cool, and like it's badass. It's scary. Like, so I painted one, it's like on a basic, 12 by 11 by 4. No, what is it? 12 by 18, whatever. Painted with the hash sleeve and lighting and everything. And boom, I did it. And I was just about to like put it on my Instagram, and my coworker saw it. She was like, I want that tattooed on, right? So I did it. I tattooed it on her and I was like, oh shit, this works, dope.
Nice.
And then I just didn't paint anything since. You know what I mean? Like I made a list on my phone. I have all these things like, Jorogumo and shit like that, like these cool yokai creatures. And it's like, what particular samurai guys I really would like to do like a Shingen. Takeda Shingen would be dope, or like, I'm already drawing a blank, but yeah, no, I gotta write everything in my phone because this happens to me all the time. I'll be like, oh shit, I want to do this, and then I just space and forget. But yeah, no, I get these ideas, I want to do them, but obviously no one knows I want to do them. So I want to still stand by what I wanted to do at the end of this beginning of this year. I want to paint more and paint these ideas down, either put them in the shop or put them on Instagram, whatever, something like that, just to let people know. Because I do get that from people. Customers will hit me up and be like, is there something you want to do? And I'm kind of like, dragon. Like, go to my default, and then they're like, oh, dope, let's do a dragon. I'm like, oh, cool. And then, maybe that night I'm like, oh man, why didn't I tell him Jorogumo? Sometimes it's obscure shit that doesn't hit me until, you know, a week later or something like that. But customers are getting, man, they're getting educated. You know, I get people rolling up like, I had one guy ask me for like something I had never heard of. What was the name of it? It was a turtle with like a woman's head. Thought it was fucking cool, man. You know, I'm doing a back piece on him of it. He's a sailor in the Scottish Navy or some shit, but because of that, he's got this superstition with the ocean and stuff. He's like, get this thing. And he said the name of it, and I was like, what the hell is that? You know, and he showed me, and I was like, I showed my wife. You ever hear this? And even my wife she's Japanese. She was like, no, what the hell's that? You know, sometimes your customers will surprise you, man. They'll show up with shit that you don't even. I remember when I first found out about like a Baku 10 years ago, I thought I was on some cool secret shit, you know. People were showing up like, oh man, this Baku is dope with the husks. I was like, oh, you know, but then I found out it was out like Naruto or some shit, you know. Anime is putting all the knowledge out there these days, but it's a good thing, yeah, because customers are stoked to, you know, you don't got to talk people as much into the obscure Japanese stuff, you know. Oh, Hakutaku, that would be dope too. I'd love to do one of them. I still know how to draw the goddamn thing still. I've been practicing. It's really hard to pull off, but every now and then you see one of them tattooed. My one friend's got one from O'Donnell. I was like, yo, that's sick, you know, but same. The kid told me, he's like, no, O'Donnell talked me into this totally. Like, I didn't, you know what I mean? So sometimes, you got to Jedi mind trick your customers a little, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, generally, the original question, I'm sorry, I tangent a lot. I apologize.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, no, I tend to ramble, so I gotta reel it in a little. But yeah, no, generally, things that I want to do in particular, nothing like specifically. At the time, it was Niue, and I painted it. I did it, cool. And now I just gotta go through my list and see things that's like, I really wouldn't do like this one, and you know, so we'll see.
Like
I doubt it.
Well, how do you? I mean, maybe I was going to ask it later, but I'll ask it now. Like, what's the interaction with the client or the customer? Like, do they usually come to you with an idea, or do you like influence? Like, hey, I think you should, you know, based on X, Y, Z, I think this would be cool or whatever.
Yeah, I try my best to collaborate. I don't want to push too hard, and I don't want to be pushed too hard either. You know what I'm saying? I try to meet people in the middle. Majority of them will come to me with their own ideas. You know, that's usually 90%. And if it's something cool that works, then yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. I never say no to a person who wants a koi sleeve. I'll be like, yeah, let's do it. Cool. Classic. It works, you know, like as long as they don't say to me like, I want a koi with, you know, 2 heads or something weird, you know, like, or like a koi with clouds, you know, as long as they understand some of the basic fundamentals of it, some of the basic quote unquote rules, you know, and I'll just work with what they want. But some people, you can tell they come in like they have a vague idea. And it's times like that, well, I'll try to influence or give my 2 cents. Yeah, but if you get people come in that are just like, do whatever you want, man, I don't care, do whatever you want. I'll be like, if I tell them like dragon, that's usually my go-to. But even still, I'm kind of like, but do you really want it? You know what I mean? Because you hear about people over the years, you know, over my years tattooing, I've talked to people that've been like, you know, the guy just kind of did this thing. No, I don't even know what it is. I don't like it. Whatever. I don't want to end up like that. You know what I mean? I don't want my customers to like be jazzed on it and then 5-10 years later be like, you know what, man, this guy kind of talked me into it. I don't even know. So I try to make them feel like I want to include them. You know, I want to feel like they're part of the process too. You know, to me, that's just as important. I mean, it's for them at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, hey, for me, I'll do it, but you know, they got to leave and wear it for the rest of their goddamn life. So they really have to feel like they're involved and that they contributed and that they helped build it with me, kind of, in a way. You know, I want them to feel that. So yeah, I do my best to collaborate 50-50 as much as I can, you know, and on the other end of the spectrum, when you get people that you can tell are too pushy or whatever. Sometimes you can tell just from the emails.
Yeah, got it.
Send me this long thing, like, with demands. And I'm just like, shit, I don't know if this guy's going to be easy to work with, So to me, ideally, if it's a 50-50 thing, to me, that's like, I think everyone wins in that kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool. That's good. That's good. That's good to hear. But and going back to your list, right? You said you had a list. Like, have you thought of, like, I don't know, just throwing some wild ideas out there, like doing a book with all these drawings or paintings or whatever, or just posting it on Instagram and be like, hey, pick from here, right? Thought about any of that?
All the time. Book all the time. I've been thinking about doing a painting book for years now. And I see all my friends doing it, and I'm like, yeah, and then I'm like, yes. I do one so far this year, man. I did one painting back in like January. It's August now, and I'm like, I tell people, like, I was a tattooer first and a painter second. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I was always into art and shit like that growing up, obviously, but I wasn't like a painter. You know what I mean? I don't know about oils or acrylics, any of that shit. I learned how to tattoo first, and I learned watercolors later. For me, tattooing is my number one. I enjoy painting. I don't think I enjoy it as much as some of my friends do. I can tell some of my friends are like, legitimately they just paint all the time. And I'm jealous of those guys. My brain doesn't work that way, I guess. I try to force myself to do it. If I had that kind of mind, maybe I could do a book, because my output would be so much better. You know what I mean? But, maybe one day I'll just finally get the stride. I don't know. But other than that, the list idea, that'd be cool. You know what I mean? Maybe just hang up in the shop and be like, hey, pick one of these. There's names, these random names on the wall. People will be like, oh, that sounds wild. What's this? And then I can tell them about it. I don't know. But I think if they see the image, it might really sell it. Just like the new thing. I didn't even get to put it online. My coworker just saw me wrap up the painting at the shop, and she was like, well, sometimes like seeing is believing a little more, you know what I mean? Like, but again, it just all starts with me. That's the problem. I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that kind of shit. Yeah, it's tricky, especially after having a kid. Jesus, exhausted every night. It's hard to paint. Yeah, maybe someday, maybe we'll see.
Awesome. I'm sure you got the customers lined up already, so at least you can rest easy on that one.
Trying, man. Yeah, definitely. Slow it down a bit. I know everyone's been saying it, but I feel it a little too. The emails aren't as much right now.
Yeah,
world's a little wild these days.
Yeah,
tense everywhere you go at the moment. So I understand. I think tattoos are kind of the furthest thing in people's minds right now. Except for the diehards, of course. But yeah, a lot of people have been saying they're getting hit pretty hard lately. My wife and I, we have pretty decent sized waiting lists, but yeah, I think, we've been feeling it too. We've been noticing the emails slow down. All tattoos goes up and down. I mean,
that's life. That's life.
It's life in general. Yeah, exactly. Maybe whether, see it through. We'll see.
Cool. All right. Well, actually, kind of changing gears here. Different question, but I always ask it. People like to hear about it. Suikoden. Do you have like a favorite Suikoden outlaw or scene?
I love Chojin, man. That scene of him holding the gate up. I can't think of a better image suited for a back piece, right? That thing just. I don't know if Kuniyoshi did it knowing it would be a back piece, but it's perfect. It won so far. I didn't finish it, but I'm working on one, I should say. It's still going on. But it's fun, man. I remember it's challenging, but it's so dope, man. The look of it, and just the fact that it fits so well, just so perfect. Everything about it, I think. And what a cool backstory to it, getting impaled with arrows. So it's just dope, man. Cool, the bells and everything. It's just a cool cool piece, cool look. You know, everything about it. I feel like that's definitely my favorite. I like that one a lot. I guess that's probably the one everyone likes, though, man.
Yeah.
It's probably for a reason, though. It's really popular, and I think it's survived as a tattoo for 200 years for a reason. So, you know what I mean? It's pretty dope, yeah. Definitely that, I'd say, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's actually get into looking at your actual tattooing compositions. Let me start sharing my screen. All right. So, Damien, I'm not sure how many of these you've watched, but how it goes is, you know, I'll just let you do all the talking about the tattoo, whatever you want to share with the world here, and then maybe at the end of each picture, I'll have some comments to share. So, that being said, over to you.
Cool. This was actually my first back piece I ever did and finished, actually. I believe this was 2013 or 14 or something like that. It's about 10 years ago now, yeah. This guy, dude, Anthony, he's a cool guy, man. I remember he was getting a leg sleeve, I believe, or like knee to ankle from Shinji. But he was annoyed with how long the Tabori was taking. And I was tattooing his buddy, actually. I was doing something on his friend, like some one-shots at Invisible. And this guy, Anthony, would come to the shop and hang out while I was tattooing his friend. And he was like, because Shinji's old studio was right around the corner from Invisible. So he would come around after his sessions and kind of like huff and puff a little, like, oh, this is taking forever, you know, like. And I was like, yeah, but yo, come on, man. It's like Shinji, man, you know, it's the best dude, you know. And he's like, yeah, no, he's like, I love his work. Don't get me wrong. It's like, it's just Tabori. It takes a while. He's like, I want to get my back piece. I wanted to get it from Shinji, but after seeing how long the leg is taking, I don't know if I can like wait that long for a full back. And I was like, again, I was trying to like talk him into going to Shinji. You know, I wasn't trying to steal him. You know, I was like, yeah, but it's going to be worth it, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, what about you? You know, why don't you do my back? And I was like, whoa. You know, I ain't going to pirate nobody's shit, man. You know, like that's, but I remember talking to Shinji about it. And he was like, yeah, of course, do it. You know, like he's a cool cucumber, man. He don't care. He's not threatened by nobody. So yeah, I took this on. Dude said he wanted a Raijin. I had like several cover-ups in there. You can see like over some of the swirls there, you know, and some of them are like, I didn't even finish the cover-up like on the left side, Mikiri there. I just let the thing hang out because I was like, whatever, you know. But yeah, no, I cooked this up. To me, this is kind of tweaky. I don't know. For me, it's like, it's a little like, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, like I kind of regret that I didn't do the third tiger head. That kind of drives me a little crazy. But I see everything that, you know, that I look at. I'm like, why did I do this? Why did I do that? But overall, I was pretty stoked with this, man. And the fact that this dude knocked it out so quick, we did the whole thing in under a year, I remember, because he was doing like 6-7 hour sessions like once a week. Man, coming in at like, you know, 8, 9, 10 p.m. all the way till 2, 3 a.m. sometimes. The dude was a warrior, this guy. Yeah, he killed it, man. He knocked it out. Yeah, the background on this one is my early days of, like I had said earlier about the whole Horitoshi influencing. So the background on this is very, very Horitoshi influenced. This swirl on the butt cheek and stuff like that. I look at this now and I'm like, oh man, this is really, you know, this is when I was pretty gung-ho at the time still. But yeah, no, this, it's the drums too. I wish I did better with the drums. As long as like one you can really see, and the three are really hidden back there. I think I remember doing the stencil in parts. I didn't draw the whole thing out in advance, which I think I kind of fucked that up a little. I remember I started with the Raijin, like just the upper half, and I just stuck it on, and I was like, let's just see where the rest goes. I didn't really map it out as well as I could have, maybe. But so when the time came to put the drums in, and it's kind of like, oh shit, you know, not a lot of room. I think I shot myself in the foot with some of that, but overall, yeah, this was a fun tattoo, man. And the fact that guy was so easy going and knocked it out so quick. And the fact it was like my first proper back piece. I remember finishing this and feeling like I finally belonged at Invisible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those guys were doing this kind of shit like 5 times a week, you know? And at the time I was still doing these dinky little one shots and like, you know, little koi half sleeve bullshit, you know, whatever. But I remember finishing this and feeling like, I'm in this gang now, you know, like so that was a pretty cool moment, you know. But yeah, this was fun, this one. And I think I saw him. I still talk to this guy. I think he's a cool guy, man. I saw him kind of recently, and it felt great. And yeah, he was really stoked with it. You know what I mean? He's happy with it. So, but yeah, I understand now why he was nervous about the time, because with me, like I said, he was doing these long sessions, like repeatedly, once a week, sometimes twice a week. The guy was a monster.
Man.
So I can understand why Tabori, you know, he just wanted to get it done.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe Shinji's likes doing like 2-3 hour sessions only, you know, and he's got his rhythm and I respect it. And a lot of people respect it, but I guess it doesn't work for some people. And I can understand now after seeing how he got tattooed by me, I was like, oh yeah, this dude, he probably lost his mind getting his whole back. Yeah. So, yeah. So,
you know, it's crazy hearing you talk about this, because you're so, you know, it's great to hear too. You're so self-critical and just nitpicking your own work. But I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, wow. I mean, it's so powerful. You know, no matter what you're saying about, you know, the draw over there, the tiger head over there. I mean, it's just such a powerful piece. And even with the background, like even in the early days, like you were saying, I can still tell, you know, hey, this is, yeah, it has Horitoshi inspired backgrounds, but this is something else, right? And I like this something else, right? Because this writing is just so powerful, and I love what you do with the hair. I think we'll see in some of the other photos. Like I don't know, you got away with the hair. It looks really nice, and the patterns and all that stuff. I mean, I love this piece. That's why I put it. I selected all the pictures and I selected all the order, and that's why I selected this one first.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, cool, man.
Cool. Let's move along here. I think the second one before you start, this one of your more recent ones in your account anyway.
Yeah, this guy's the man. I'm actually doing his back piece now. We're going like full suit with this guy now. It's going for it. Yeah, he's the man. We started off with the black koi arm first. He, you know, just everyday guy came in off the street, want to get 2 koi sleeve. I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, maple leaves, very classic, simple, straightforward. We knocked it out, and then as we were wrapping it up, he was like, I want to do my other arm. I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, and a couple months later, we got started. That one, he got a little tweaker. He was like, I want to get a dragon koi on this one with goldfish, and I was like, all right. You could tell he was kind of doing some research, and didn't want to just. But he got a koi on the inner part of that, just to kind of, you know, keep it all matching, so to speak. But I could tell he was getting a little more inspired to do some research and, you know, explore the different possibilities. And he let me get wild with the water. And this was one of the examples where I was like, you could see like the water connecting on where purple goldfish is, like I was just trying to get a little experimental and be a little tweaky with the water. I think at this time I remember thinking, like, I was talking to somebody and I was like, oh, you know, koi, unlike a dragon, there really is only a few ways to kind of do a koi, you know, like they can't get too crazy with them. But I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, the water, that's how you really sell a koi sleeve, is the water, the movement of the water, you know. This arm, I think both arms, I remember getting a little crazy with, can't really see it in this photo as much, but some of the water, it's like I was getting a little out of hand with it maybe, but I think I want to go back to dumbing it down a little. But overall, no, this guy's the man. This was fun. And he was letting me get crazy with the colors. Like I think he suggested the purple goldfish. That was his idea. I thought that was cool. I was like, yeah, let's do that, because I didn't want to do. He had all the other colors already, like black, green. He has an orange cooler over there. It was like, so yeah, that was cool to do. And yeah, we're doing his back now. He's getting Horimono fighting a dragon, actually. So, and he said he might eventually do Munawari. So that would be sick if he goes all out. But for now, yeah, this guy's the man. Adrian, that's his name. Yeah, he's actually coming in next week. I'm going to work on his back some more. Yeah, fun.
Awesome.
Fun, yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. I mean, in the previous picture with the Raijin, you could tell that it was a great composition, right? And again, we talked about the background, just Horitori's inspired background, and then of course your foreground. But what I think one of the things that makes a really skilled tattooer is that you can appreciate both the foreground, the figures, but then you can also appreciate the background, right? There are those who say that the backgrounds is what makes a tattooer, right? And here, I love everything I see here, right? Especially this goldfish, really cute. But the background, I love what you did with the background, and hearing you talk about it and saying, hey, I was trying to be more dynamic and such. So for example, if you look at the waves there near the goldfish, I really like what you did there, for example. So yeah, it's really nice that you brought it up, because that's one of the things that I really liked about this piece, just that the dynamism of the waves and such.
Thank you. Yeah, just try to make it look like action. Try to make it look movement. That's to me, like anything that looks stiff, that's like my nightmare. You know what I mean? No, I'm gonna try to make. That's kind of the whole point of it. With the whole, that's what all the background is for, right? The whole point was to make it look flowing, moving, alive. Like it's on, coming out. That was always what all the cliches people would say about Japanese tattooing. It's like, it looks like it's alive, it's coming off of me, like it's true, right? I mean, and like you said earlier, for years I was obsessed with background only. It was like, that's all that mattered. I remember reading old Horiyoshi interviews, and he was like, just focus on the background, everything else doesn't matter. And it was like, and I was like, that's it, that's all I'm gonna do. That I don't even care what my dragons look like or whatever, like. But over the years, yeah, you especially like I said, from Garver, especially knowing like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, maybe I could put a little more effort into working on my foreground stuff as well. Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's, I'm glad I snapped out of that, silly mindset, you know what I mean, to not care as much about the actual imagery. It's like, I want to try and put everything into it all as much as I can. So, yeah, this is probably my most recent thing, isn't it? Trying to remember. I feel like this is like the last big thing I finished the most recently. Yeah, I think this photo's only like a month or so old. So this, at the moment, I feel like this is like probably the truest representation of me at the moment, just because it's the most recent. But already I'm trying to shuffle things around and take a different approach to certain things. But at the end of the day, I'm still very happy with this. I didn't feel like overall I'm happy with it. Not like it's perfect, and more like I feel like this was fun and everything. I know he's stoked with it. He's going to do his whole bodysuit now. You know what I mean? But yeah. So this is cool. This one, I was pretty stoked. Overall stoked. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really like this one as well. And then it's also cool to know that, you got the koi, then you got the Ryugyo, the dragon koi, and then you talked about him getting a dragon as well in his specs. Like, you got the whole evolution in there.
Yeah.
In the body, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Cool. Good. All right. Let's see what else we got in here.
Okay. Yeah, Shuten Doji. This guy. This already. I hope this guy's name is Mick. I hope he doesn't hear this interview, but I think this is the back piece I'm least happy with personally, because the biggest thing I fucked up is I didn't put the helmet on Raiko. That's his name, right? Raiko?
Yeah.
I fucked the helmet up, dude. That's like It's like the main part of the story. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking when I didn't have the helmet. That's, you know. So already, I mean, technically, I'm happy with this. Of course, you know, it's it's cool. It was a cover up, so that I remember that threw me off. You see the big cover up over that big black swirl underneath
Yeah.
Shuten Doji's head.
Yeah.
There was like a big like number there. So I remember that when he asked for the back piece of this story, I was kind of like, this big black thing's right in the middle. I was like, how am I going to work around that? So like, I kind of had to sandwich the samurai in there a little bit, and then I felt like, oh well, the Shuten Doji head's flying anyway, so I'll just put it up top, and there's plenty of space up there. And yeah, but you know, just knowing that I didn't have the helmet is like, for me, is like such a screw up, because you know that's the whole point, is he latches onto the helmet. But anyway, that's, you know, I could lie and just tell him that's one of his buddies, because I think there was like 4 samurai that went in there and chopped his head off. But I could just tell people like, oh no, that's not Raiko. Actually, that's just one of the other guys. You know.
I think he dropped the helmet, and then you're painting the scene where, you know, they're picking it back up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, like there's so many ways I could spin this, but at the end of the day, I know I messed up. But again, I don't hate this tattoo. I was, you know, it was fun, and the customer's a great guy, and yeah, no, I remember he had a leg sleeve from one of the girls that used to work at Nine Tins, so I had to connect it to that. It looks there's a little strange now, you know, but that yeah, that was a little tricky, because the way she ended it, I remember it was like, how the fuck do I do this? But yeah, no, overall, this was a fun tattoo. I was stoked with the Shuten Doji. I was happy with that. I guess this is what you mean by like the hair, because it's it's kind of similar to the Raijin from earlier, right? Like,
No.
yeah, no, it's I had fun getting tweaky on the armor. Yeah, no, I remember being inspired by like you know, Alex Rusty, the tattooer in Australia. Samurai painting he does, the armor details he does. I remember being like, I'm gonna do that on the next, you know, samurai tattoo I do. I want to do like him. So I tried to get as wild as I could, because it was actually a back piece, you know, the space to play with. But again, it was tricky because it was so sandwiched in there. So I remember being a little like, it's a little suffocating to me, but yeah, no, the Shuten Doji I was very happy with. That was fun to work on. But yeah, again, like I said, I think out of all of I've only finished like 5 or 6 back pieces. I'm not going to front like I did 30 back pieces or nothing, but out of the few that I finished, I remember this is the one that I kind of am like, you know, cool. Like, but this was maybe finished like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. So it's still pretty recent, especially compared to that Raijin from the first one. That thing's like 10 years old. But this one's only a few years old, you know. But yeah, this was cool. It was fun.
Well, the alternative view is I think it looks great. I mean, you talked about the cloud, but I think it plays real well with the whole story, right? With the demon and just flying, like you were saying. Like, it doesn't look out of place. It looks good, right? And then obviously you did a good job there with the cover up. And then I love what you did with the details, right? With the armor and the clothing. I always look at that stuff. I love that stuff. You know, you look at that, I think that's a purple or a blue down there by the bottom. That looks fantastic. And the shoes too, like the shoes. I think that's super cool. And again, the hair, right? I mean, you were talking about the helmet, because the story goes that, again, like you said, it bites into the helmet. But even still, I mean, the hair here looks, I'm talking about the Raiko, the actual human figure. It looks cool, right? So you can argue, hey, there's no issue with that, right? It looks awesome. So
Yeah.
no, it's awesome.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think that they like, here, I'm not Japanese, right? So there are times I catch myself being like, hey, am I being a little too nerdy about this shit? You know what I mean? Because I know some of the guys take it very seriously. You know, I remember when I went to get my personal back piece years ago at New York Adorned. And I remember I got it by this tattoo named Dana Helmuth. And I remember Dana drew it up, and I got a drawing a blank. Tomomori, sorry. I'm drawing I have a Tomomori on my back piece.
Hey.
And I remember Dana drew the whole thing up, and I went to go start the line work. And I remember Dana was like, no, we can't do today. Like, Shinji critiqued my drawing and was like, the armor's all wrong. It's not time period correct. And I remember that just like fucked my head up, man. You know, I was like, yeah, you know, it's like that, you know, that was a long time ago, but I remember it really stuck with me. And there are times when I draw, or I mean, anything I do now, that story kind of stays in my head a lot. So something like this with the helmet, it reminds me of that. I think about like, what would Shinji or Horitoshi or, you know, what would one of the more serious Japanese tattooers say if they looked at it? And maybe that's the person they would say, "Oh, where's the helmet?" You know, like right away, you know. So that's could be me beating myself up, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to be too like dorky about shit and be like, you know, that shoe's from 1400, not 15. You know, it's like, like sometimes it's a little bit intense, but at the same time, I don't know. I just try to meet in the middle. But yeah, for me, that always. But thank you. I mean, you know, you're the man. You know, nice words. Thank you. But
No. I mean, it's good to hear you say this kind of stuff, right? Because obviously it shows that you care about your craft and your work, but at the same time, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's a piece of work in the body of the person. If that person likes it, that's the number one most important thing. And I think it looks great. I'm pretty sure I don't know the guy, but he probably liked it a lot too. The other question I have is he extending or like the other?
When you say that, because when we finished this, he was kind of traumatized actually, especially when we did the pattern, like on the purple, at the bottom of the, like around they're on the both butt cheeks there.
Yeah.
He was having a hard time, I remember. And this guy's I did an oni on his ribs, and Horimono did an oni on his other rib.
And
like just a standalone oni, no background. And ribs are freaking brutal, man. You know what I mean? They really hurt. And I remember me tattooing his ass there. He was freaking out, and he was miserable. And I didn't hear from him for years. So I thought he was gone. And he was like a friend of the shop, this guy. He's a really cool cat. And, I remember we finished the tattoo and he was gone. We didn't see him. I was like, damn, man, I fucking ruined the guy. I broke him, you know? But he just hit me up like a month ago. Because when we were doing the back, he had said he wants to do half sleeves extended from the back. And possibly like something down his sternum. And I remember telling him, like, because he was having a hard time on his ass cheek. I remember telling him, bro, you want to get your sternum? I was like, dude, you know, I wasn't trying to like dissuade the guy, but I'm like, yo, if you're having a hard time with your butt, like, the sternum is most likely gonna be fucking murder. Like,
yeah.
And you know, maybe I scared away. He was like, oh, I don't want, you know. But then he just hit me up like a month ago, and he was like, I'm ready to start my arms and my sternum. Like, holy shit, he didn't forget. So I think this fall we might start his half sleeves actually, and then depending how that goes, I'm sure it'll be fine with the half sleeves. I mean, most people are, but maybe do the sternum as well, or eventually, because he's got both ribs done already.
And
maybe he'll want to water it up as well. I hope. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But yeah, he's coming in soon. We're gonna do half sleeves next and keep building off of this as well. Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Awesome. All right.
Yeah. This guy. This was one of the craziest moments of my whole life, I'd say, because this guy, he contacted the shop at Invisible and was like, I want to get a back piece collaboration though from Garver and Damien. This is like 2015, maybe something like that. And right away, I wrote to the guy back. I was like, nah, you don't want to. I had only been doing like, I finished that Raijin back piece like 2014, maybe something like that. And I was like, I got no credentials, you know what I mean, to be doing a back piece with Chris fucking Garber. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got one finished back piece. I'm under my belt, and so I was like, thank you. I really tried to talk the guy out of it. I swear to God. Like, I was like, thank you. Like, I'm honored. I'm, but you may want to call RG or Piku, like those guys are clearly way up there, And he was like, no, I don't care. I want you and Garber. Like, he was dead set. It's like, I approached Garber with it. He was like, yeah, let's do it. Fuck it. Like, but I remember Garber, like, he said some outlandish shit. He was like, how about, what did he say? He goes, how about I draw it all, you outline it, and then I'll color it off. I was like, what the fuck? No, I mean, that was like a nightmare, like, not to mention, I don't know, it just sounds like, give me all the hard work, I don't know if he was fucking with me or not, but either way, I was kind of like, I mean, maybe obviously he can draw better than me, but at the same time, I was still, proud enough to be like, I want to contribute something. If I'm going to do it, I want to put something of my own on it. So I think I had the idea. I feel like I had the idea to say, like, I'll do the upper half and you do the lower half kind of thing. And I think he went for that, something like that. Yeah, I forget. But yeah, that was pretty much the gist of this one. Like, I took, like, kind of much just cut it in half. Like, the half up is all me for the most part, and the half down is him. I think he started with the tiger. That was like the anchor piece, kind of like, that was, everything was kind of branched off of that. And then I added the dragon. He really, like, he was helping me with the dragon. I look at this dragon today and I'm like, oof, you can, the face on that, for me, I'm like, yikes. And even the claws, it's a little, but again, I kind of had to squeeze it in. I didn't fully, you can tell on this, I'm still pretty green, but it was fun. I ain't gonna lie. At the end of the day, like, I at no point do I regret any of this. This for me was such a nice feather in the cap. I get to work with my hero, and, quite literally. I remember the guy was good, man. We at one point we were doing like same time, like 2 machines same time. You know what I mean? Like, because I think after a lot of it got lined up, it was just like, okay, let's start filling in, and we were just, taking many sessions of that. I remember initially, because the way I do my background, this is far different from Garber. So he was like, let's do our backgrounds the same so that it all matches. And I was kind of like, yeah, good idea. So I tried to do my background like he does, and it just was like horrible. I remember the first couple of wind bars I did, they healed like shit, and they were real shredded up because I have my technique, and if I gave too much, it just doesn't work. And I remember I was like, no, fuck that. We're not doing that anymore. I'm going to just do it my way. If it doesn't look good, then I'm sorry, but that's what I want to do. And I'm glad I did, because it went a lot smoother after that. And I remember the guy like disappeared for a while in the middle, and we thought he kind of fucked off. And we were like, oh, well, that sucks. He's been gone for like, I was like almost a year or something. Oh, well, something weird like that, like 10, 11 months. And then he showed up, he hit us back up. He's like, hey, I'm ready to start again. We're like, oh, okay, cool. Come back in. And he had this whole sleeve over here. You can see that Fudo.
Yeah.
From O'Donnell. And we were like, damn, dude, what, you just like took a break to go get a sleeve on the side, And yeah, but it looks amazing. The O'Donnell sleeve is fucking amazing. The guy's obviously got great taste, And these other things you can see on the bottom, like that blue Fudo and that void on the hips are from Jason Louis. Those were there before. So Garber had to squeeze everything around those. And I think the only thing I did on the bottom was the dragon tail. If I remember correctly. Yeah, like that's pretty much it. But everything else was all Garber on the bottom, and then everything up top was me. But yeah, nah, it's for me, just the head kind of, and I guess some of the dragon body. Again, we didn't have a lot of like the dragon body was tricky, man. I remember being like, how the fuck am I going to squeeze all this? Because, like I said, the hips were already done.
Dang.
I think I only did 2 claws on this thing. Even there's no third, or there might be. Oh, you know what? No, I think there might be a 3rd claw behind the tiger head if I remember right. But there was no 4th claw because I just couldn't fit it anywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, nah, sorry, dude, but yeah, nah, he didn't care. He was super happy. He was just stoked, and yeah, this was fun. I remember we did most of it at Invisible, but I think at some point Garver had left to go to 5 Points, open, I know, Cologne that, but Ami, and I remember it was a bit of a conundrum because it wasn't like bad terms. I mean, none of us were tripping at Garver at all, but I remember the dude he still had a few sessions to go, and I remember he was like, hey, can I come up and you guys can work on me together again? Garver was like, well, I'm not going back to Invisible. You know, I work here now. And I remember I had to like go to Troy and be like, you know, I had a fun tattoo at 5 Points just for today. He was like, yeah, it's all good. You know, he didn't care, but I remember just, you know, it's a little taboo to, you know, your boss to go work in another shop down the street. You know, it was a little strange, but I remember doing a couple sessions at 5 Points to finish it up. That was like the end of it all. And yeah, no, overall, this was a great experience, and yeah, I learned a lot just from working with Garver so closely. I remember this was kind of like the beginning of a lot of him coaching me on a lot of shit. I remember, 'cause I think before this, I feel like first couple of months Garver was there. I remember being kind of like, this guy's kind of crazy, kind of weird, you know. But I quickly learned he's just got his way of saying stuff, and sometimes it may come off a little like, what? You know, you'll be tattooing and Garver will walk by and be like, why are you doing it like that? You know, and just kind of walk away. You're like, oh shit, what happened? You know, and the customer looks at you like, yeah, what are you doing? But it's just his way of pretty much saying like, hey, you can do this better, you know, and that I learned that's what it was. But this project in particular, really just getting to sit down with him and map shit out with him and understanding his process a lot. And then my ideas, him being like, no, don't do that, do this, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it really, really, really helped me. I remember this was an amazing learning experience. Just a lot of fun. You know, I wish I could do something like this again with somebody, but it's just cool doing a collaboration in general with anyone would be awesome. But it's a lot of work. I understand why people are kind of put off by it. 2 machines on your back at the same time doesn't sound pleasant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, he was the man, this guy, though.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I wanted to show this one because I read a little bit of the backstory and off of your page, right? And I thought that, you know, hey, I love to show obviously the tattooer's work, and then I also like to show a little bit of cover-ups just to show, hey, this guy can do that kind of stuff too. And then of course, when you see something like a collaboration between 2 legends, living legends, right, in the tattooing scene, I think you just got to talk about it, right? And it looks fantastic. I think it's iconic. So this is what else can I say?
And this thank you, man. A lot of people I remember were asking me about it for a while afterwards. Just ran at conventions or something. People were coming up to me. You know, I thought that was it was pretty cool. It was a really fun, like pretty cool moment, you know, just to be even in the same conversation with Garver, you know, especially so quickly after really pushing Japanese style. At that point, Garver had been doing it like 20 years already. Here I am, like 2-3 years taking it seriously, and I'm already doing back pieces with this guy. It was a trip, man. It was pretty surreal, but I'm glad I did it again. Even though I tried to talk the way out of it at first, I'm glad I went through with it in the end. I think if the guy listened to me and went to someone else, I would have really regretted it. So I'm glad he stuck it out, because in the beginning, I really tried to talk him out. I really, really tried, because I was just not feeling confident enough to even be in the same room with Chris, much less do a tattoo with him. So, but I'm glad I did. This to me this was awesome, you know.
Yeah. Okay, my great. I also love how, you know, there was already stuff in there, and you know, a new sleeve popped up out of nowhere, but still you got this balance, and it looks great, right? So I think that's one of the big achievements of the piece, besides the great collaboration. So
Yeah.
nice. All right, and then now for the last picture.
Yeah, this one here. This was interesting too. This is like multiple cover-ups. This one. I remember initially she had approached me just for Kirin. Only want a Kirin, she said. No background. Maybe she wanted like a peony or two. I think that was part of it. Yeah. She wanted just a Kirin and a peony. But there were like tons of cover-ups on like her ribs and her shoulders. There were like these little dinky things spread all over. And yeah, I remember being like, all right, the composition on this thing is crazy because, you know, it's the body just really trails off like onto her ribs, you know. So for me, I remember thinking like, but I kind of had to get the scales there, to get the cover up clean. I remember I was really feeling really handicapped at the time. Like the peony is the purple peony up top is a cover up. The blue peony bud is a cover up. It's all cover ups. Like this clown over the tail is a cover up. Like there were so many on there. I remember being like, Jesus, it was a little jarring at first, but yeah, I remember I had just gotten back from Japan. I remember at this particular, I started this one, this has got to be around the same time as the Garber one, like 2014, maybe, something like that. 2015 we started. No, maybe 2014. Yeah, something like that. And I remember I just gotten back from one of my Japan trips, and I found this temple that had to be like 30 fucking Kirin statues, man. There were so many of them. And they were like they were all like maybe this big. And they were all like metal, I explain. Like they were like little mini statues kind of. And they were all surrounded this I don't know what to call it, like tower or something. I don't know. Anyway, there were so many, and they were all different positions going all the way around. I took a photo of each and every one. I remember being like, "Oh, I got all the cute references for life now." I remember thinking, and like right after I got back, she asked for this, and I remember being like, "Perfect! I got like 30 different positions I can play with now." Because at the time, I didn't have a lot of Kirin reference. I remember it was tricky. There's not a lot of ukiyo-e that I know at the moment. I still, after all these years, I still haven't found that many ukiyo-es, you know what I mean? So I remember a lot of it was more like you got lucky and found like some, screen painting in a temple or, some, you know what I mean? Because the last thing I want to do is reference another tattoo. I try to avoid that as much as possible. I always try to go right to the source as much as I can. Referencing someone else's tattoo, it's a little A, you're doing their thing, and B, it's, if there's a mistake, you're kind of repeating their mistake. You're right. Yeah. So I'd rather go right to the source, and at least if I fuck it up, like it's on me. You know what I mean? But I remember, I had all this reference, and this one kind of position in particular stood out to me that it would kind of work. But looking at this now, it's definitely wild, man. The hair is just for days. I got a little carried away with the hair, I feel like, on this one. Just everywhere. But I am happy with this one still, just because it's still pretty powerful. Yeah. And but I remember halfway through we were doing it, we were finishing it up actually, and then she hit me with, "Oh, can I get all background by the way?" I was like, I had known that I would have drawn the whole fucking thing differently, you know what I mean? Because because most of the cover-ups were on the sides, like I said, like her ribs and shit, like her hips and stuff. So I could have just done background, you know what I mean? Like if I had known background, I would have done the Kirin much more central and used the background cover-ups. It would have been perfect, easy, but whatever, it happens, right? What are you gonna do? So I did all the background. So yeah, that was I think we finished this like 2017, maybe 2016. It took about 2 years, I feel like, something like that. 2014 to 2016, something like that. And but again, overall I'm happy with this one though, too, just because I love the face on it. I'm stoked with the way it looks, pretty intense still. And it healed great. I'm doing her arm right now. You can see her right arm is all the line work there. She kind of disappeared for a few years, like with COVID, and then I moved to London. We kind of lost touch, but my recent New York trips, she got wind of it and was like, "Oh, you're back in New York like all the time now." So we started finally finishing it, because I think I lined her arm right before I moved to London, something like that. Because we finished the back piece, it was all good. Then she was like, "Oh, I want to do my arm now." Like, all right, cool. So I started lined it, and then I moved, and then all that bullshit went down. Like COVID popped up like 6 months later. And yeah, lately, the last few trips I've been doing her arm again. I was looking at the Kirin recently, and it healed up great still. It looks pretty strong still. But these peonies are a little, I look at the way I drew them back then, I was like, but that's all normal, right? Anything, if you see things, 10 years ago, that you're still doing it the same today, that's kind of a problem, right? So there should be some kind of, I think most tattooers should look at things they did back then and kind of cringe or wince a little, it's kind of all. But overall, I'm still happy with this, man. People still, I think the Catania convention, I'm doing that in a couple months, and they took this and put it on the Instagram announcements. Like people still are stoked on this, I guess. It's I remember a couple conventions, like Paris too, I think took this one. And so even though it's 10 years old, it still seems like people are still pretty jazzed on it, overall. But there's definitely things I would change personally. Right now today, but just the whole story of it, like her adding the background at the end. I remember that was a moment where I just wanted to like jump out of the window. I was like, oh my God. But again, it didn't like ruin it for me. I remember when it was done, I remember looking at it, it looked kind of strange without background, because it was the way it was placed. Everything was a lot of gaps, but then when she wrote, there we go. It's all full now. So, and then the cutie goes all the way up onto her neck for some reason. I don't even know why I went that crazy. I think more cover-ups possibly, but usually I go much lower, like, around the shoulder head line. But this one, I remember looking at, it was all the way up, pretty high up there, man. Holy shit. But I think it's because of the cover-up, something like that. Yeah, she had so many little ones I had to work with. But yeah, this is a fun one too.
Oh yeah, it's a powerful one. I mean, before I heard everything you said about the like the cover-ups and all that stuff, like first things that came to my mind before talking to you was just how powerful it is, and how beautiful it is too. Like the hair it's beautiful. It's beautiful hair. And then, the scale is also good, and the angle, you can see movement in there too, right? I think that's pretty cool. And then again, I mean, if people keep picking it, it's because it looks great, right? Well, what else can you say? And then now you're saying that, that there were a bunch of cover-ups. It's even more impressive when you hear that. So awesome, man. Oh, this is really good. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah, so actually, before I stop sharing, I just want to say, people, if people have been paying attention, you'll hear that, hey, a couple of these pictures were actually not that recent. And again, that's all on me. I was the one who chose the tattoos because I thought they all looked awesome. But if you want to see more stuff, I had a hard time picking them. Just go to Damien's account and you'll see, everything he has to show the world. Cool. Let me stop sharing in here. get back to the main man. Well, actually, this question that I have here, I'm just looking through the list. I think I already caught glimpses of it as we've been talking, right? But I'll ask it anyway. What have been some of your biggest influences in your tattooing career and in your style?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I caught myself talking earlier about Hide and Horitoshi and Garver, but the common denominator to all of it, honestly, it's just invisible. Invisible NYC. None of that would have been possible if I didn't work there. So to me, that's been the biggest moment in my career, where the most happened in my career, the most learning, the most growth, the most connections I made, the most friendships. Everything was from that shop. And, you know, if to this day, that's been the biggest for sure, like influence. And just working with those guys every day, seeing the literal magic those guys were making on a daily basis. You know, Garver, Kiku RG, and even Troy. You know, like Troy was like in and out a lot, but there were times when he would show up and work and focus, he was making some. I mean, that dude's OG, man. He was killing it too. So, and then there were like the young guns like myself that came in later, like Matt On, Matt Mancura, Jose Chalarca, Chris Magnotti, Henmo. I mean, there were just so many awesome dudes that came in and out of there over the years. And then the guest artists were obscene. I mean, we had guests once a week there. I got to work with so many, all different styles, all different approaches to tattooing. And then just homies would come hang out. Like I say, Shinji was there like every night. I mean, Frankie from Kings Avenue was there almost like every other day. Justin Weatherhouse was coming through. These guys were just, it was such a, like a clubhouse in there. You know, we had, you know, we had people from Japan, people from Europe. I mean, we had Koji Chimaru all the time. We had Horimono all the time, Claudio Desabe all the time. These guys were busy guest artists, man. And Tim Hendricks, you know, he would bring his crew like Chuko and Avi, DeLuna. And I can name drop all day, but they were just always amazing tattooers there on a daily basis. And then the actual people working there. So to me, that was, I mean, without a doubt, my biggest influence, you know, I could go back to my apprenticeship days and, you know, like when my earliest spark came from grime. That was like the beginning, you know, like even before Horiyoshi 3 and Philip Blue and all that. So that, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention grime at all, you know what I mean? Because that, is when I got my apprenticeship, like I said earlier, I thought everything was just flash and shit like that. You know, that's at the time, especially in Philly, that's all it really was. Yeah, there were no studios in Philly, you know what I mean? Like it was all street shops. It was Philadelphia Eddie's and fucking Body Graphics. That was it, you know, Bill Funk and Philly Eddie. My shop was way out in South Jersey. I keep saying Philly, but I apprenticed in South Jersey over the bridge there. I grew up in Philly, but I'd drive over to work every day. But that shop was no different. It had flash. It was a street shop, you know, and I thought that's all tattooing really. My first few tattoos I had on me were that way. I just walked in and picked something off the wall and looked at the body chart with the colors. Oh, this will be 20% more. Okay, then you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there were no like in fancy pants studios. You know what I mean? Like no appointments, none of that shit. You know, like. It's so when I found grime and like the whole San Francisco thing, for that matter, not just grime, I found the one dude I worked with had the 2-year autopsy book and he loaned it to me. It just blew my mind, man. Seeing like, holy shit, you know, this can be done. You know, that was the real eye opener for me. So grime's always been a big influence, even though his style and his now are like totally fucking night and day. You know what I mean? But it would be lame if I didn't mention him in any kind of way, because that really was the initial spark that had me like, oh shit, I can really crack down on this and work and make some cool shit, you know what I mean? And then from there over the years, you know, there were people that came and went, like the guys that told me a tattoo course, you know, they're there, of course, too. And then Scott Kelly, of course, was in for a while there, and then now Nine Tails, I bounce off of ideas with my wife. She's a big influence on me as well. We always even though we don't see eye to eye on a lot of shit. I'm like, try that. She's like, no. And she'll say to me, do that. I'm like, nah. But at the end of the day, we do influence each other. You know what I mean? That was, her look is very different from the way I do Japanese, but we find ways to meet in the middle and still, when she'll do certain cool stuff, I get really motivated and vice versa. And not to mention, we are always trying out inks and machines together. And you know what I mean? Like it's pretty cool being married to another tattooer for sure. But definitely invisible, man, without a doubt. Everything goes back to that. Was the main core of everything that I am today came from that, you know. Have to mention that. Yeah, have to put that out there.
Yeah, that sounds legendary shop. I'm sure there'll be like documentaries and books and stuff like that about the shop and the people that came out of it, because I mean, you mentioned it, right? It's just amazing, the output.
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, at one point, yeah, it's, you know, it was the spot for a minute, even though it was grimy and run down, and you know, it was a little dangerous in there at times. You know what I mean? We didn't have the polished kind of Kings Avenue or New York Adorn kind of thing. We were a little more grimier, a little more like, you know, some people that was the turn on, other people it was a big turn off, especially some of the antics of some of the people that work there, like some of the, you know, opinions of some of the people that work there, you know, that eventually, you know, it's a shame that it all disappeared the way it did, but I get it. COVID was a fucked up time for everybody and everything. So there was a lot of things went sideways for a lot of shops, and it just sucks that it didn't get the proper send off it deserved. Like, I remember, like, when New York Adorn closed, it was like, you know, it was like 6 months of mourning in New York City. You know, it was just like all these parties and gatherings and all that, you know, people talked about it, and just like, you know, whereas Invisible was just like in the night, it's gone someday, you know. Like, but that's I was already in London when it went down, because I moved here for all, you know, my family and all, but getting text message after text message from, you know, and we were all in lockdown at the time, so it was, we all had nothing better to do than gossip with each other. So I felt like I was in the middle of it all, because everyone was hitting me up like, this is what's going on now, you know, and then now it's gone and this and that, and I was like, gone? What do you mean? Like, it's just, yeah, it's kind of wild how it went down, but definitely a legendary shop for sure. The fact that people still talk about it today, it's such a weird kind of, you know, I've met people in London, younger tattooers, and here I worked there, and they were like, they get wide-eyed, you know, like, you know, is it true? It was like this and that, and I'm like, yeah, you know, like, they just hear the stories, you know. I mean, it's pretty cool to hear how some of the legend of it has grown over the last few years. I'm sure, like you said, it will continue, and hopefully someone does a book someday about it. I think it deserves some kind of recognition, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's I don't know if that's Troy's style. He's kind of more like he'd rather let the legend just live on, spoken over campfires kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes, but yeah, it was definitely a great shop. Definitely the best place I've worked at ever, and I can't think of anywhere that's ever going to be like that again, because none of it was forced, you know.
Yeah.
It just was very fluid there, everything organic, and yeah, I think that's what made it special, you know.
Oh, awesome. Well, sort of sticking to the previous question along the same lines, you know, we talked about the Kirin, how you were in Japan and you started taking pictures of references. So what are like some resources or sources of inspiration that you use for your work?
Well, yeah, Japan was so much of it, you know. Everyone talks about it, like, oh, the Kyoei and all that, you know, and it's important, very important for sure. But for me personally, and just going there, immersing yourself in it and understanding just how much of it is bombarded on your senses when you're there. You can't really put it into words, you know. It's everywhere there. I mean, even just last week, I was walking through some shop and there was like a little box of ramen noodles or some shit, you know, like instant ramen. But I had like this dope oni on it with like a big club. you know, and it looked great. It was like perfect reference. I took a picture of it, you know, just things like that. They don't even think of it. My wife didn't even notice it when I showed her. And she was like, oh yeah, look at that. Like, you know, for her, it's just so second nature because she grew up with it. But for us, when we go there and we understand just how much of that stuff we're trying to research is just everywhere there in everyday life. And so yeah, going there was so important, you know. And then so that's just walking through like Tokyo, for example. So imagine going to like a temple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some kind of old castle, you know, it's insane the amount of reference you can take from just all the stuff hanging, you know, all the things on the walls there, and, you know, the books they have, all the throwaway books to them, it's just like you bargain bin books, and for us, it's like treasure, man. Like, this picture, all this reference, like, you know, it's pretty amazing being over there and seeing it all. So that absolutely referencing going there. I think at my peak, I was going there like maybe, I'd say like 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
Like a solid almost 10 years maybe. Yeah. 2008 to like 2018. My kid was born 2019 is when we slowed down everything. So 2008, 2018-ish, in that 10-year window, I was going 3, 4 times a year, sometimes 2 months. Just, yeah, man, I almost had like a whole second life over there. So I was spending a lot of time, and a lot of it was just, reference gathering, studying, just trying to elevate my understanding as much as possible so I could apply it to my tattoo. Because at the end of the day, I'm, like I said before, I'm not Japanese. I didn't grow up with it. I always say, like, my wife will always have, or any Japanese tattooer, they will always have this like cultural advantage over us, you know what I mean? It's just in their psyche. It's ingrained in their DNA more than, you know, I could go move to Japan tomorrow, live here the rest of my life, speak fluent, wear a kimono like a fucking weirdo, and you know what I mean? Could pretend as much as I could, but I'll never get that level that they got because they just grew up with it. It's in there. So there's just different understandings that they're always going to have. But I tried my best to get there, you know what I mean, for so many years. Tried so hard to just absorb and immerse as much as possible. So absolutely, that was my number one, was in going to Japan, for sure. You know, all of the books and everything can't compare to just being there, standing in the middle of a mountain temple and just sucking it in, you know what I mean? And at one point, I remember looking and seeing things looked like Japanese tattooing to me. That was like a moment. I remember standing in some forest one time and I saw like leaves blowing like in a swirl. And I remember being like, oh, I can see it. It was like a weird moment, you know, like it was like, you know, you get these moments over there like that. It sounds a little hokey, but it's real, you know, and take that and gotta hold on to it and bring it home and try to apply it. And, you know, it's because we're always, as foreigners, we're always going to be a bit handicapped. Japanese people doing Japanese tattooing. So I think to make up for that, we have to go there a lot and just take it in, you know, as much as you can, for sure. So that was definitely my number one, for sure.
Yeah. Now that makes sense. I mean, you go over there and you literally, you see it everywhere. You look up and there's like a temple and it has stuff on the ceiling that's reference material. You look at a corner, there's a little tanuki or something that, you know, might also be reference material. So yeah, 100%. I mean, it's one thing to, you know, you can't learn how to fight by reading a book or watching TV, right? You gotta go and fight. That's how you learn, yeah.
That's a good way to say it, exactly. I mean, the books are great. It's good visual aids, you know. I mean, you can buy every Kunyoshi book ever made and have all the pictures, but, you know, until you go, when Hokusai, for example, you know, but until you go, and I remember it's like, it reminds me, you ever seen the movie Good Will Hunting?
Yeah, right.
Or Robin Williams is kind of like giving Matt Damon some shit, and he's like, yeah, you can read all this stuff, but you didn't stand in the Sistine Chapel, you know what I mean? Like, you can tell me all about fucking poetry and this and that, but you've never been in love. You know, like it's the same. Like you can say like, I got all of your Hokusai book ever, but you didn't stand in that temple and look at the dragons he painted, like you said. You know what I mean? You didn't feel it, kind of. I don't know. It is an energy. I don't know how to really say it, you know, and to fully appreciate it, yeah, you really have to go and see it. I know it's not an easy trip. It's easier said than done. Some tattooers, they can't. I mean, these days, it seems like everyone's been there now, actually. I don't know. Once upon a time, it was like this kind of like really, you know, I remember when I was an apprentice, it was like this almost like Skull Island kind of thing, you know? Like, you had to have this special way to get there and know the right people. But, you know, these days, I feel like all of my customers have been there. I know like half my relatives have been there now. You know, it's absolutely grown. The tourism industry has grown there. So it's not so difficult anymore. But that's definitely the advice I try to give, you know, younger tattooers that want to push it more. I'm like, dude, just go there. You know what I mean? Like, you'll understand when you're there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I got a question for you from the community. I got these little groups where I ask, hey, I'm talking to so-and-so. You had a question for them. One of the questions was along the lines that I'm reading the question right now. Since you worked in Philly or New Jersey and New York, and now you're in London, right? And you've worked all around the world too. Is there a variety in terms of the type of requests that you get, let's say when you're in New York or you're in London? So for example, the type of subject matter, is there like a difference between what people in New York might ask you versus in Europe?
I feel like the projects in London have all been bigger. Kind of crazy. I feel like the volume in New York was more, but it was more like sleeves. Sleeves. You know what I mean? Like I had just tons of sleeves going on. And London, it's been less. It's almost like a little more quality over quantity in a way. And not to say my people in New York aren't quality. I'm not trying to say that. I mean, he's like more in a sense of like, you're getting less requests here in London, but they all want bigger shit. So like I'm doing way more suits here, just only living here 5 years now. And in the 5 years I've lived here, you know, one of them was COVID. So technically I'm only tattooed here 4 years. Right. In those 4 years, I've already got at least 5 Wabori projects going on. And whereas in New York, I didn't have any. I tattooed there for like 15 years. You know what I mean? So that to me is or maybe that's just because my career's a little farther along than it was when I was in New York. I'm not sure, but even like, I don't remember, like RG had 1, Kiko had like 2, maybe something like that. Shinji had a couple, I remember, but I feel like here, like my wife has a bunch, and seems like the Japanese stuff, like Utaro does. I think he's doing 1 or 2. He's did like a full donburi on this guy. Like it just seems like the people here are a little more. I don't want to say the word like hardcore, but not to say like New York's not hardcore, but like dedicated. I don't know. It's a little different. It's a little different. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, less people, but what those people are getting is much grander.
Yeah.
New York, I feel like I would finish 1 sleeve and that person was gone. Very rarely, you know, did they want to come back to the other. Whereas here, I'm finishing up a 2nd sleeve on a guy tomorrow, actually. And I got another guy I got to finish. I already finished both sleeves. I got to take photos still of it and then heal up. And the guy I talked about earlier, you know, it just, it seems like people here are a little more, they got their guy. This is my guy. I'm going to just finish everything with you. You know, seems like New York is a little more, I'm going to go to him now. Go to him. Seems to be. I'm not sure.
Interesting. No, it's a tricky question, but I get what you're saying, you know, because there are these cultural differences. Sounds very dramatic, but there are these differences based on where you're at, right? So I've got many examples that come to mind, but you always wonder, hey, am I saying something that will take somebody off, you know, and then you hold back? But interesting.
don't want to bum out my New York customers either. I mean, you know, many of them watch it and be like, "Oh, word, high quality motherfucker." Like, you know, I don't mean like that. Just like, no, I appreciate everyone, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That goes without saying. I love, you know, these New York customers are where I'm at today. You know, I would never disregard anything like that. It's just, it just seems more of a, I mean, New York wasn't really a tattoo city until fairly recently. I mean, it was illegal till 90s. You know, like when I moved there from Philly in 2006, I didn't really see people on the street with tattoos, man. And even though you had New York Adorn, it's like at the time the best shop on earth. You know, you didn't really, compared to Philly, especially Philly, everyone was everywhere. And then I mean, it was a tattoo city, you know, and like it just was very blue collar, and whereas New York was always a little more cosmopolitan, a little more bohemian, you know, the kind of contradicts stuff done, but I guess it was bohemian first. That would make it more tattoo. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know, but I guess it was illegal. We know that. So you didn't really I don't know how to explain. Yeah, I'm not very good at articulating sometimes, but I do remember when I moved there, you know, seeing is believing. I don't know how to put it into words, but I do know when I moved there, I remember feeling the difference.
Yeah.
People on the street weren't as tattooed as they were in Philly initially. It obviously grew over time. Now there's thousands and thousands of shops in New York, obviously now. But this is almost, you know, almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
So it obviously took time to catch up, you know, but, so maybe it's something like that. I don't know. Whereas London has a little bit more of a Philadelphia vibe, even though it's a big city, similar to something like a New York in a sense, but it's a little more of a working class type town, city, whatever you want to call it. Like, so maybe that could be part of why they can just bigger. I'm not sure really. I'm still kind of learning this town myself, but yeah, that's what I have noticed for sure. That I can't deny that the projects have been bigger here. Sure, compared to Philly and New York. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then I'm not sure if it's been your case, but I'm sure that, for example, over there in Europe, well, now the UK, it's not Europe, but you know, people fly in and they take the train from, let's say, from Germany, from France, for wherever, and it's like super convenient, whatever. And versus, you know, in the States, it's not like that really. So there's also that, you know.
When I moved to New York, my Philly people thought I was moving to like Mars. You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do? I'm like, just take a train. I mean, it's an hour and a half away. They're like, I'm not driving to New York. That's crazy. I'm like, oh my God, these guys. And now, yeah, look at this. I got people from Spain. I got people from Germany, from Scotland, people from Italy come out. I mean, France, you know, people are stoked in this continent. Yeah, it's not even country, in this continent, to just take a train around. You know, obviously UK is not part of EU anymore, so it's a little trickier for people to get in, but it's not epic. You know, obviously, I mean, I had plenty of people come in, and it's been fun. I got a guy from, you know, Sweden flying in next week. It's just kind of what they do here. It's really, I used to kind of, when I worked in New York and people would come up from Philly or wherever, Boston, whatever, I would always like feel so bad. It was such a thing. And you travel all the way to New York for me. So I don't know, oh, man, you know, thank you. Now initially when I first moved here, it was the same. People would thank you so much. And they would look at me kind of like, yeah. You mean, my wife started explaining to me like, dude, it's fine. Trust me, like, it's what they do here. And I'm starting to understand that now. Yeah, for sure. It's really cool.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man, I got 2 more questions for you before we wrap up. And this one's around, what do you think or how do you feel about the tattooer and the client bond or their relationship? And you can take that as in any way you want.
It's very important. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's the most important part, right? I mean, it's, especially for Japanese, I mean, for any tattoo really, but especially for Japanese stuff, because you spend so much time together. You have to get along, man. You have to vibe in some kind of way. Luckily, I get along with pretty much all my guys. I mean, some of them really well, some of them, you know, well enough. I'd say there's maybe one or two that I don't really get along with, and that just happens. You can't get along with everybody, right? You can't please everyone. You're not always gonna. You can be the nicest dude on earth. There's gonna be at least one person that don't mix with, man. And there's like one or two in London that I'm like, kind of like, all right, let me just get through this. It happens sometimes. It is what it is. But generally, yeah, I get along fine with all my people. Everyone's cool as ice, man. Everyone's even back in New York was the same. I don't really remember anyone that really stands out. Maybe one or two again, but it is important. It really is. There are tattooers out there today. I was taught to tattoo by two dudes, and one of them I'm still really good friends with today. We keep in touch. We're all good. Other one I don't really fuck with no more. He's a bit of a jerk. But he's an amazing tattooer, but he just treated everyone like shit, man, and he thought because his work was so good that was like enough, you know? And I guess for some people it is. They just want to get the nice shit and they'll tolerate the bad attitude for however long, but that always stuck with me, even as an apprentice. I was a young kid and I was kind of like, guy's being a fucking jerk, I always didn't want to be like that. So for me, yeah, the relationship's important. You should get along. And I would like to, I know again, like the Japanese way, like Shinji, for example, I know like once a year he takes a lot of his guys out to dinner and shit, you know what I mean? Like it's appreciation for them. I think that's so cool. That's I heard about it. I was like, man, that's genius. That's something I'd like to do maybe someday. When I build up a nice little team of people. Just show. You had those old tattoo clubs back in Japan, back in the 70s and shit. Just a bunch of guys hanging out, like smoking, just looking at their work together. Like, I think everyone, and it all like based around the tattooer. And to me, I think that's so cool to have that kind of relationship with your clients, to be on such a relaxed level, and yet almost like you've known them forever kind of thing. Because I guess really you got to spend so much time together. It sucks when you're just tattooing in silence.
Yeah.
Both of you can't wait to get away from the other. And then that person's gonna wear it, and be like, just reminded of this horrible personality they had to deal with. And yeah, to me that would really bum me out if one of my guys like couldn't stand me. Like maybe I'm sure some do. I'm not gonna sit there in front like everyone loves me, but maybe there is one or two guys that I don't even know about that they just like tolerate me for whatever reason, or they like my work or whatever. But if I knew about it, actually, if someone told me like, oh, by the way, so-and-so can't stand you, I'd be really like heartbroken, I'm like, damn, I try to give everyone a good experience. So yeah, it's very important to me. I think it should be a real respectful level. These guys are given all these hours of pain, money to you, so you should definitely do your best to make them feel welcome and make them feel like they're part of the team, and like part of the hang, whatever, like. So yeah, to me that's always been important, for sure. Make them feel welcome. But again, like I said, some people are night and day, right? So personalities aren't going to mesh, and sometimes you got to just get through it.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I'm sure people, whether they're watching this or they're listening to this, they can tell just by hearing you speak. I mean, you're a cool cat. You're a nice guy. I would think it's not a trial to get a tattoo done by you, right? So if there's an issue, then it's probably the person getting tattooed on you. But yeah, I always like to ask this because some people, they might have never heard of you, or they heard of you and they're thinking, I want to go there, but I don't know, they're shy or whatever. And so they can get a little sense of, okay, here's what Damien's all about, right? And then they can make their decision. So
no, that's a good point. No, that's cool. I hope no one's intimidated or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, no. Sometimes Yeah, no, I don't know. Sometimes I'll say like, you know, left field type shit from time to time, like anybody. We tattoo, you're in the moment. Sometimes they'll just say like a dumb joke or, and some, if someone is bummed or offended or whatever the fuck, then like, obviously anyone can talk to me, but, no, nothing comes to mind though. Yeah, no specific moment. But yeah, again, if anyone, you know, listening or watching, yeah, please come say hi. Yeah, I'm easy.
Awesome. All right, man. Last question before we let you get on with the rest of your night, because it's night over there. I mean, we talked about, your beginnings. You went from New York, killing it in New York. Now you're killing it in London. Developing your style. You got a distinct style now that people can look at it and tell, okay, here's the man. What's next in the foreseeable future for you?
I'm kind of back on the conventions kick again. I've ridden them off for a long time. So, but I went to one last year with my wife, actually. I didn't work it. She was working. I just went to tag along. We brought our son together, and that was the Frankfurt, the Gods of Ink, the first one.
And
big one off. Homies in the same room again. It was just like, man, should I miss this? I hadn't done a convention like 5 or 6 years before that, maybe even more. And I was kind of like, I was done with it. I was kind of over it. I remember reached a point where I was like, I don't need these anymore. I'm fine, like the hassle, whatever. But then that reignited my interest, and I've been doing more this year. I'll probably do more next year. Just try to push that some more. Aside from that, I got, I still work in New York and Philly both like twice a year. I would like to step that up maybe 3 times a year if I can, once my kid gets a little older. Yeah, just trying to find the right balance of traveling and home. But no, aside from that, just keep sticking to the projects that I'm doing. Try to get them bigger. Hopefully get a full suit one day. I doubt it, but that's like finding a unicorn these days. Yeah, that would be sick to do a full coverage suit, But aside from that, for me personally, just travel, just keep traveling, try to hit some new spots. Norway, we want to go to, and where else? Australia, that's a big thing right now. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Oh, yeah, we've been really chopping at the bit to get to Australia, actually. I don't know when or how, but there's a convention out there that invited us out, and there's a shop out there that we're friends with. They invited us out, but it's just so far away, it takes planning, and but that's a big thing for it. Australia is kind of like my new Japan right now. For years, Japan was like this far away, unattainable kind of place. Now Australia is like that for me. Like, how do I even get there kind of thing, Like, it's a bit of a challenge. I'm excited to try it. And then I'd like to still get to Brazil at some point. I never did that. I noticed a lot of my friends have been doing South Africa convention. That could be cool. Just something so random and unique and cool to try. Yeah, that's really it. Yeah, nothing really major. Like I said, I just keep pushing the shop. I got no plans to leave the shop. I got no plans to move leave out of London. I got no plans, any of that. Just gonna dig in here, but definitely test out more conventions where I can, more countries, cities, Maybe get back to California someday. I'm overdue for that. All that will get easier once my kid gets a little older.
Yeah.
Kind of either take him with me or, a little easier to leave the house for more time the older he gets. But yeah, that's, I'd like to grow the shop a little more. I've been trying to hire someone in Nine Tails, but it's been a fiasco for some weird reason. It used to be so easy to hire people back in the day. Now it's like, we've been trying for like 2 years to get someone in there. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, I would like, we have space, I'm like, can we just get someone in there, but there's so many shops now, it's competing with so many people, it's crazy. But other than that, nah, that's it. It really just simple, basic answer. Travel, do bigger stuff, be better. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Cool. Cool, man. All right. Well, it's been real. It's been a pleasure talking
Thank
with
you.
you, getting to know more about you, showing the world what you're about. So having said all that, again, thank you so much for hopping on and wishing you the very best of success, man.
Thank you very, very much again for this. I'm honored, man. Really, really appreciate everything. And yeah, no, I'm stoked. I was watching I watched the Rico interview you did, and really, really cool stuff, man. Learned a lot, and I was stoked when you hit me up. So I was like, oh snap, like really, really, really cool. Thank you again, man. Really, I really appreciate everything, and thanks for being patient with my weird time schedules and traveling and all that nonsense, and my rambling. Again, if I ramble, thank you.
It's
Really
good.
appreciate
Everyone's eating up your so-called rampants. It's all good.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you again, really.